Trump is spending the weekend at his private golf club, as you see there, in Scotland, but he's facing growing pressure here at home. Remember, it was only 19 days ago that the DOJ released a memo, all but closing the Epstein investigation, claiming there was no evidence of a client list, blackmail efforts against Epstein associates, or evidence that would lead to additional prosecutions of anyone else involved in the over 1,000 victims of Epstein's abuse. And after facing untold scrutiny, much of it coming from Trump's own base, we've seen the DOJ now make an about-face and ask courts for cherry-picked documents to be released. We saw the Deputy Attorney General of the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, who was also Trump's former defense attorney, spend 2 days in Florida interviewing Epstein's longtime accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, something unheard of, according to experts. While the DOJ hasn't commented on what was discussed during those 2 days, we do know that the DOJ granted Maxwell limited immunity in order to answer questions about the Epstein case. According to Maxwell's lawyer, she was asked about potentially 100 different people and, quote, answered every single question. The bigger questions still unanswered are what was the goal of those interviews, and was Blanche there on behalf of the country or on behalf of his former client? Joining us now, George Conway, conservative lawyer and president of the Society for the Rule of Law, and Andrew Weissmann, former FBI general counsel and former senior member of Robert Mueller's special counsel that investigated Russian interference in the 2016 election. He is an NBC News and MSNBC legal analyst. You know, I'm going to start right at Blanche, because he just spent 2 days, the Deputy Attorney General spent 2 days in Tallahassee, Florida. I want to play some sound, though, to kind of color the conversation from Todd Blanche in a podcast. Listen to this.
I know a lot of people that have worked with you. I know a lot of people who know you very well. I now consider you a friend and someone who I know pretty well. You are by far the best out there, and I'll always say yes to this podcast.
Now, George Blanche's friend that he's saying there is Maxwell's attorney right now. So explain to me and
to
Jonathan and the people at home why the Deputy Attorney General, who has bigger fish to fry, it would seem, is spending 2 days in Tallahassee, Florida, by himself, interviewing and talking to a convicted sex trafficker.
Because he's a criminal defense lawyer. Okay, and he has a criminal who he represented last year and continues to represent. And what he's trying to do is act on behalf of his client, who he views to be Donald Trump and not the United States of America. And that's why this man why it was so unusual, so bizarre for a Deputy Attorney General to interview a witness, and to interview this particular witness. Because the only reason why you'd want to interview this witness, and I don't think it makes sense, but the only reason why you'd want to do that is to create some kind of a diversion from the fact that they are refusing, the Justice Department is refusing to release the Epstein documents because guess who is in them?
Yeah.
Andrew, I'm wondering about the whole Queen for a Day immunity that Ghislaine Maxwell apparently got for this conversation. And I want to bring this up because of what happened in July of 2020 in a court filing on Ghislaine Maxwell from the Trump Justice Department. It says Maxwell's willingness to brazenly lie under oath about her conduct strongly suggests her true motive has been and remains to avoid being held accountable for her crimes. Help square that circle for me.
Sure. Well, this is one of the reasons why it is particularly inappropriate for Todd Blanche to be doing these interviews, because he is not the career prosecutor and or career FBI agent who investigated the case, who knows the facts. So you have someone here who is convicted of sex trafficking and also was charged with perjury because she lied about her various interactions on behalf of Epstein and victimizing young women and girls. And so you have to be incredibly wary of what she might say to get out of jail free, essentially. And the way you do that is by having career people, not a political appointee, and a career person who knows the facts so they can know whether Ghislaine Maxwell is lying. And so to George's point, why would you send in a political and not a career person if your motive was actually getting at the truth? And final point on this, any single day of the week, at this moment, the government is free to turn over the gigabytes of information in the Epstein files. And so all of this is a huge distraction because they want to pretend that they're turning over every stone and looking under every rock. But for the public, there's a huge amount of information that could be disclosed right now by the government, and they're not doing it.
You know, President Trump was asked about pardoning Maxwell. He said, I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about. We asked Teresa Helm, who's one of the survivors of Epstein, about that just a bit ago, an hour ago now. We want to play some of that sound.
Her presence and her approach to me was so meticulously calculated that her intention behind all of this, I would even say, beautiful humanitarian woman-to-woman interaction, it was all to fool me. It was all to get me to think one thing and believe that I was in as I said, a safe and healthy environment, when actually she was setting me up to then go into tragedy. What comes to mind a few times already is, are we actually going to have another sweetheart deal here in the state of Florida?
So, George, she's talking about a pardon. A lot of people are talking about a pardon. Do you think that we're going to see some kind of pardon or clemency here? Is that why Todd Blanche spent 2 days talking to this woman?
It's the only reason I could think of why they would be doing this, is to trot something out that she says that somehow makes him either not the subject or exonerates him in some fashion. And that's the only reason why you could think of doing it. But it's absolutely, positively insane. And we know Donald Trump is not afraid to grant pardons to people he thinks helped him in some way, particularly in the testimonial way. But let's stop there for a minute. And Andrew can't play this game. Okay, we're going to play a little quiz game here Andrew, for the two journalists here who know everything.
And non-lawyers.
All right, non-lawyers. All right, what did Roger Stone and Manafort get charged with? And what were they found guilty of?
Gosh, that's like a decade ago. I can't even remember. It was
see, that's why we do. We don't. Right? It's hard. You will always remember what Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of. That's the point.
Was a good
and
game.
It's very simple. And it's also very simple too. It's worse than just this abstract, This went on for years. This with 1,000 victims. Two of the women who they were girls when they were molested. Two of the victims who testified, or two of the four who testified at trial, were 14. 14-year-old girls when Epstein first had sex with them. And Ghislaine Maxwell was right there, telling them what to do, how to do it, taking their passports away so they couldn't get off Epstein Island. Okay, this is not going to work for Donald Trump. Okay, he does this. He's pushing a big bomb to blow himself up. But, he's thoroughly capable of doing it. He's a moral maggot who has absolutely no capacity for shame or empathy or remorse. All he cares about is what he thinks will get him to the next day.
Or the next hour. Andrew, before we have to go to a break, I'm going to switch gears and play this sound from the press conference yesterday when not press conference, but outside the White House when the president was asked about President Obama having presidential immunity against these charges of treason that have now been leveled at former President Obama. Watch this.
How do you think that the Supreme Court's ruling that benefited you on presidential immunity would apply to former President Barack Obama and what you're accusing him of doing?
It probably helps him a lot. Probably helps him a lot, the immunity ruling. But it doesn't help the people around him at all. But it probably helps him a lot. He's done criminal acts, there's no question about it. But he has immunity, and it probably helps him a lot.
Andrew, your reaction to that, because he flat out says he's done criminal acts. No, he hasn't, meaning President Obama.
So one of the tactics of President Trump is to use adjectives and adverbs and epithets in lieu of facts and rational argument. And it goes on. And it's very easy to do that, to use those labels, but there actually are no facts. I mean, this is one where legally there are all sorts of things to say, but it's more important for people to understand there's absolutely no truth and no evidence to this. This is from a president who, by the way, is still claiming that there was fraud in the election that, he says he should have won. And he has announced that he has, irrefutable proof of that, but then refused to actually have the press conference that he said he was going to have to reveal that proof. This is the same tactic of using this sort of diversionary epithets with an absolute dearth of facts, where every single person who has ever looked at this, including Republicans up to and including Marco Rubio and John Durham, have said that there's nothing to this. And it is absolutely in black and white that Russia interfered in the election in 2016, and they did so to help Donald Trump and to hurt Hillary Clinton. It's absolutely clear. So this is really just a diversion.